Fiction and reality. New stories, new ideas. Little Beth Entertainment.
Welcome to episode 118 of The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. We are joined by Gary Rosenfield. We're going to talk about the latest from Aerotech and some of the other things that Gary is up to. Stick around. The Rocketry Show happens right after this. The Rocketry Show thanks RocketryForum.com for their support. This is CG, and I've been a member since 2010. The Rocketry Forum is a global community of rocketeers who openly discuss all aspects of hobby rocketry. And if you have a question, hop on and ask. There are hundreds of experts who can answer just about any rocketry question you have. Check them out today at RocketryForum.com.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Welcome to The Rocketry Show.
All right, lift off and the clock is started. Yes, sir. Reading loud and clear.
A podcast that is all about advanced and high-power rocketry. Amateur-built rockets, starting at mid-power to higher-power versions that can reach the edges of space. This program is hosted by the team who love the smell of burning ammonium perchlorate in the morning. Here are CG, Gene, and model rocket guy, Jesse Yu.
Welcome to episode 118 of The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. I'm CG.
And I'm Jesse, model rocket guy.
Yes, and Gene is missing. He's down with the Rona. It caught up with him. But fortunately, he's all vaxxed up and everything. So we'll hopefully have him back on here by the time you hear the show again. The Rocketry Show, spaced out conveniently in the incubation and recovery period of a COVID virus.
But we bother him all the time, so it's okay.
Yeah.
We still talk to him a lot.
He can recover. Give him a chance to bounce back.
Yep.
So we are here, and this show, we've got Gary Rosenfield from Aerotech. So we're going to get ready to jump on over to that interview here. And on this one here, this was before Gene got sick. So you'll hear Jim on the show, and Jesse and I outside of the interview. So let's not waste any more time and roll right into there with Gary Rosenfield of Aerotech.
Yay.
Welcome to the program, Gary.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, CG and Jesse and Jeem. Good to be on.
It's good to have you on.
And happy New Year.
Oh, happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year to you too.
What's been new at Aerotech? We had you on in later half of 2020. I think the late summer we had you on last. And so no doubt there's been a lot of things that's happened since then.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been pretty busy. We've rolled out some new Quest motors, the 24 by 70 millimeter motors. I think it's the D22 and the E26. We came out with a B6. I mean, I was actually looking. I didn't quite look at all the releases from 2020, but we've got a number of things that we've already announced but are planned for release this year, and then a couple of things that we already released, but just barely before the end of the year. I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk about that. I can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we've got coming out, what we brought out last year, late last year was our L1940 motor, and that motor was actually requested by Chris Short of Chris's Rockets. He had identified a need among the college teams for some of their competitive flights. So we were trying to compete with one of the other motors out there it was about an L17 or something, 1700 or something like that. I can't remember. But, we ended up going through a couple of iterations, and the first one was great, but it didn't have a high enough average thrust. I think it was it's an L12 or 1300 something. In fact, it's out there. It's one of our existing products. So he said, try again, come back with something better. So I said, look, we're just gonna blow past it. We're gonna try to come out with the best motor we can in that size. So that's what we did. We used Propellant X, and we used the faster version of it. It's the version that's in the K1100. which is slightly catalyzed. And we ended up with an L1940 with, I don't know, it's 4,300 and some odd Newton seconds. So it's the highest impulse 3-grain 75 millimeter motor out there. It's got a delivered ISP of about 242 seconds, which is second only, I think, to the M2050, which is 247. So it's pretty high strung motor. We demo that at NSL in Alamo.
Yeah,
So there
Alamosa,
we go.
right.
Yeah.
We were there.
Great. Yeah.
We were there.
And you saw it. So that's out. That's we've shipped some. This year, what I can talk about is, we actually certified an N1100 and an N1975 White Lightning motors in DMS mode. All right, so these are single use.
Nice.
Okay? So
awesome.
On the N1100, all we have to do is write the instructions, which has been big. We've been putting that off and putting it off. So these are already certified, right? So then we got the N1975, which is kind of a DMS analog to the N2000. It's basically the same motor. And the N1100 is also the same as the N1000 RMS. So those are two that'll be coming out this year.
Wow.
A couple other things we've got is an I-40. This is a 38 millimeter by about 8-inch long DMS motor. So it's a long burning. I don't know. It's about a 10.
You guys hear that? That's up your alley, guys.
That's about a 10-second motor. Again, it's an N burner.
Ooh.
It's a shorter version of the motor that I used for the Hamster Dance competition last year. That'll be out this year. Let's see what else. The J615 Super Thunder motor. That's a 2-grain core burning RMS reload for the 54 millimeter 852 case, and
I'm sitting here shaking my head up and down. I want.
It's kind of a cool motor. I mean, it's used. The coolest thing about it is it uses an Aerospike nozzle, so it is the first. It's the first certified Aerospike motor ever in history. There's been no certified motors using an Aerospike.
That's so cool because I've heard all the talk. It's been going on for years,
well,
going back and forth with stuff and on Facebook and
we were just playing with it. It's like a lot of other projects. They get started slow, and you do a little of this, a little of that, and you finally get to demo one and get it certified. And there's really no big rush, in my view, for some of these things, because whether you know it or not, we've got about 400, maybe more propellant products out there. That's a lot. That's a lot of motors. Yeah. It's a lot to keep in inventory.
Oh yeah.
It strains our dealers to keep these in, and no matter how many we bring out, more people want more. So we understand there's a need for that, and one of the things we're going to do in that regard is, we've been talking about it for years, but I think we're really going to implement it this year. Is that we're going to look at all the motors that we make, and the ones that are at the bottom of the list, we're probably going to take off our main availability catalog and put it in a seasonal availability, maybe once a year. We'll say, okay, in October or whatever, maybe during the slow season, which isn't so slow anymore, but used to be November through February was kind of slow. But we might take some of those slow moving products and put them on a seasonal availability list. So it'll make it a little easier for all of us.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a really good idea, and that should work out nice with the demand. I mean, there's something cool about it. I can't put my finger on it, but there is something cool. Like, it's the season for this motor now. Better order a few to have them in stock.
Well, it'll make it more efficient for us too to produce them, because then we can make a bigger batch at a time.
Cycle it.
So that's kind of a wrap up of what we've been up to. I mean, there's a few little other things we're working on. Obviously some of it we don't talk about right away. We've got Narcon coming up, and that's we're going to be talking about more of some new model rocket stuff, but also we'll talk about this stuff as well. So people listening to this are getting a preview of some of the Narcon information.
What's cool is one of the earlier appearances on the show, which goes back a ways. I forget exactly when, but I remember you were you kind of, tossing around the idea of the Aerospike, and you weren't sure if you're going to do anything with it or not. And, and it's, we're kind of experimenting with it, and which is kind of cool. Then I saw shortly after, when you released the nozzle for people to experiment with on their own. And now we've heard it come from an idea to an option for experimenters into like a full ready to buy product from Aerotech. So that's really cool to kind of watch that happen right here on the show, and anybody that's been listening to that as well here.
Well, it's definitely been a slow motion project.
Like with the Aerospike nozzle, we know that has been the talk in all various places on the Rocketry forum and whatever. But to actually make that available in a reload is pretty cool, because I want to see what that flame looks like. I just want to see it. I want to fly it. I want to just shove it in a rocket and let it go and see what I can do with it. But it's, and I know that I don't know what that would do to a thrust curve. I don't know anything. So it's all exciting because I want to see, okay, well, how is this going to be different than a regular, nozzle? So I'm really looking forward to picking that up.
Well, the thing you'll notice most about the exhaust is it's not a traditional rocket motor exhaust. It's more of a kind of a brush shape. It kind of fans out in different directions, and there's no mock diamonds. So it's kind of a clear cylinder of flame in the middle, and then it kind of fans out all over the place. So it's really kind of an unusual looking exhaust. But I mean, the whole idea is it's not anything about performance. It's just about, it's a cool factor. It's a different technology. It's, something you get to experiment with that, nobody's ever experimented with. I mean, on the hobby level. So
right,
exactly.
So that's what it's all about. I don't think we're going to come out with a bunch of additional motors like this. But I wouldn't say we won't come out with any more. We probably will, but it's not going to be a line of 20 or 30 Aerospike motors.
Understood.
I just want to put that nozzle on my shelf after I burn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I like it. And we definitely got to say it evolve here on the podcast, or listen about it evolving. So
yeah, that was great.
I do agree with that. CG and Gary, that's cool. And we did talk about that last time we had you on, so that's a good follow-up. Thank you for bringing that up. So we were taking a look at the rocket that you had posted in several different locations on some of the different forums. And I want to know, first of all, what made you decide that? Did Scott give you the little shrug on the shoulders like, hey, Gary, why don't you use one of my rockets for your level 3 project? And then Gary's like, heck yeah, let's do that. Let's put a big Enerjet on it and let's do that. Tell me the story. How did you guys decide on that?
I haven't been in a big rush. It's been 25 years since the certification process started.
Sure.
And, we were all confirmed, quote unquote, back in the day. And I've flown M-powered rockets, or what I figured were M-powered rockets before. But I ended up, I continue getting jabbed and kidded about, not having the level 3. So I said, why not? And I think I was over at Scott's, canopy at LDRS at Bonneville. I think this is where it was. And I looked at that Fusion, and I looked at those fins, and I said, boy, that really looks like the 2650. It's got the same shape. And then I'm just thinking to myself, I'm envisioning, I wonder if I could paint this up or make it look like my old 2650, just because that would give it some fun. I would have fun doing that. So yeah, I ended up talking to Scott and I said, can you put something together like this? He says, yeah. He says, and then, in a couple of emails, we iterated the design and got it right. And I call it pseudo scale. So it's not, you're not going to take that and say, oh, that's exactly the right proportions. And how do you scale a three tube booster, into a single tube? So I said, well, maybe you can make a little gradient to go in alongside the fin, or, along the length of the fin, make it from a distance. It kind of looks like a shadow where the two tubes come together and all that stuff.
Right. So
that's what he did. And, he put together this custom graphic. It's a vinyl, printed vinyl with our logo and all this good stuff. It came out so nice. And I had a lot of trepidation putting it together, putting the vinyl on, because you got to roll it on. And I rolled it on my coffee table in the living room. And I'm saying, you got to get this right the first time, because if you don't, it's going to look awful.
So just so everybody knows, that, let's reiterate on this for a second. So let's talk about Scott for a minute. So Scott, is the owner of SBR Rocketry. He's located in the Pacific Northwest. He's out of Walla Walla, Washington. And we've had Scott Binder on before last year. And I'm actually pretty decent friends with Scott. I mean, I messaged the guy just out of the blue. We just talk about just whatever. But I've had the pleasure and honor of meeting him a few times and, buying some of his kits and doing some of that stuff, helping people build some of his kits. And I got to tell you, there's a few things that Scott does. Number one is design. He used to own a sign shop. So think of like a Fast Signs or something like that. He was always like a step above. And as far as I understand, he still kind of works at the sign shop that he used to own, and he helps run it. So that's the first thing. Second, he does sell rockets full time. So the fact that you chose, Scott, to build one of those rockets because it was kind of an iteration in your mind of something that you had from before, that's awesome. And the gradient that you're talking about, Scott is like the perfect person that could put something like together. And, I'll give, Scott a lot of attributes, for being a really good rocket designer. And his stuff is very unique. Some of it is a little unorthodox, honestly, but all of his stuff works. So if anybody has any qualms about building an SBR rocket, go get one and try it and build it. You got Gary here to testify. I think it's a great idea. And you're 100% right. Like following your threads and looking at the stuff that Scott builds and, designs versus what you're trying to do with it. I think it's great. So, awesome, Gary. That's fantastic stuff. I can't wait to see it fly.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
On what motor?
What motor and when do you think you'll get it up in the air?
It's going to be an M650, the long burning 75. Of course, I love long burning motors. And,
absolutely.
Awesome.
And the other logic there was to keep the peak velocity down. I actually had I was going to make a level 3 attempt with a custom made motor, get it served. I don't even want to go into it, but it was like so over the top, stupid, complicated. And so I'm glad,
awesome.
I'm glad I never got too far with that. This time I said, it's going to be, pretty straightforward, and I'm not going to go for any records and just get it done. Right. So,
there you go. Yep.
Oh man, that's cool.
It was fun. I mean, it was a challenge. I'm looking forward to flying it maybe in the next few months. I mean, at LDRS at the latest. Okay. At the latest. I really don't want a big crowd there, right? So LDRS would be if I don't want a crowd, LDRS isn't a good choice. But I need to have. I really want Carl Bauman to be there. He's my primary tap, and then Mark Clark. He doesn't have to be there, and I think Gary Dickinson is the third one that's working with me on it. So
okay, cool.
Anyway, it's all prepped and ready to go. All I got to do is build the motor, and I've got the checklist of stuff to do. So that's what's left to do.
Oh, it's exciting, So and you touched base on this just a second ago. Let me finish with this real quick. So you had talked about kind of being grandfathered in, right? Because you had flown M style and M impulse type motors before. And a lot of people like throughout the forums were like, I thought Gary was already level 3 certified. So, I mean, that's what it was, right? That you were kind of grandfathered in before the certification process kind of came into play, or how would you kind of explain that again?
Well, in the beginning, everybody was, the word was confirmed. Okay. You were triply confirmed to fly. And then, at some point they decided to come up with this 3-level certification process, and they made it retroactive to everybody. Didn't matter who you were. So we all have to comply. And Carl Bauman was actually the very first level 3 flyer.
Oh, okay. Wow. See, we did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. He is number 1. Wow. So I thought that was cool to have him as my tap as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And how did you find this? How'd you find the certification process? Like, you did the whole, the design process and all the files and everything? I mean, how was that experience for you?
Well, as far as doing the simulation stuff was pretty straightforward because I've already been using Open Rocket, and Scott had kind of a template that he gave me that I just modified and with what I
just made the adjustments.
So it was, the process is a little intimidating before you jump into it. because of,
Right.
you're having
It's
to
meant
look
to
at
be
all
that
these
way.
pieces of paper. It's meant to be that way. Okay.
Well, because you have to be committed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I figured. That's the way I looked at it when I did it.
Yeah. No, it's a little, you have to jump into it and you have to do a little bit of reading and, as we say in Yiddish, it is a simus to put it together. My parents used to say that.
Got it.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad it's almost over.
Cool. Well,
Yeah. Well, once you get all the paperwork in, then the flying comes in. That's the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. I got all the paperwork filled out.
and we look forward to seeing how that goes. I'll be following you on the socials to see, your triumph, because we know you're going to make that one happen. So,
Thanks. Well,
and with that motor, it's going to be in style.
I've pranged enough rockets in my day in the past. Not so many lately, but I'm definitely not taking it for granted. Okay, so anything could happen.
Cool. We're going to take a quick break here on the show here, and we're going to come back with Gary Rosenfield, and we're going to follow up on that. With you getting your level 3, we're going to come back and talk with you about some things that people need to keep in mind from a motor perspective when they go for their level 1, 2, or 3, and that should make a pretty interesting topic to talk about there. So we'll take a break and we'll come back right after this. You are listening to The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. We'll be right back. It's time for ERockets.biz. ERockets.biz is your home for unique model rocket kits as well as the world's largest selection of rocket parts from Semrock. They've been in business since 2009, and ERockets.biz has a wide selection of your favorite kits, as well as their own versions of popular out-of-production models many of you have come to enjoy over the years. And Jesse, what did you find from ERockets?
I am really excited for today's special on ERockets. They have in stock the North Coast Rocketry Vectra NCR 210. The Vectra came out probably about 2 years ago, and I've been waiting for ERockets to get this because I want to build this particular rocket. It's got a total of 6 fins, 3 canter type fins, and then it's got the booster type fins. And I remember Matt still talking about this particular rocket. What I really like about it is the size. This 29 millimeters set up, so it's good for mid-power flights. You can put a G80 in here and just watch it burn. It's 37 inches long, so just right over 3 feet. 2.6 inches in diameter. And it's got the Gorilla shock cord mount, which I really like using because you don't have the chance of particularly zippering the tube, because you actually can put in a shock cord to the Gorilla mount and make sure that it doesn't come out of the end. And you guys got to witness and try this for yourself. The Vectra is something I've been looking forward to, and now that ERockets has it, I just want to let everybody know they have it priced special right now at $69.99.
All righty, and there are plenty of other rocketry items to choose from, such as educational rocket kits and supplies, air rockets, water rockets, and so much more. ERockets.biz certainly has enough kits and supplies to keep you busy in your workshop for a long time to come. Need parts for your own custom builds? That's not a problem. ERockets.biz also supplies the Semrock line of airframes, nose cones, centering rings, motor mounts, and so much more. ERockets has more rocket parts available than anyone else on Earth. So check out ERockets.biz today to learn more. ERockets.biz. If rocketry scares you, buy a train set. Lock Precision Rocketry manufactures a full line of high-quality precision-fit electronic bays, motor mount adapters, recovery hardware, and harnesses, all designed to meet your building, repairing, and customizing needs. Lock Precision believes in making rocket kits as light as possible while maintaining the strength required to fly with commercially available motors. When you visit lockprecision.com, be sure to also check out their wide range of rockets, such as the 4-inch Mystic Buzz, the 4-inch Lock Goblin featuring multiple motor mount adapters for 29 and 38 millimeter motors. If you're looking to gain entry into high-power rocketry, then you can certify for your level 1 in style using the Lock 4 rocket kit. Lock features rocket kits for all flyers ranging from entry-level builders to experts. The name Lock Precision has been synonymous with mid and high-power rocketry for over 30 years. Check out lockprecision.com today to find out why. Find your airspace with LockPrecision.com and Public Missiles Limited. Welcome back to The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. CG, Jim, and Jesse, we're all here along with Gary Rosenfield of Aerotech, and we're having a great conversation as always. And we just got done talking about Gary's upcoming Level 3 certification, and that moves us into another question that we want to ask on behalf of listeners who are thinking to stepping up their game. One of the things I wanted to bring up is to go over some things with our listeners who are contemplating going for their Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. Things to consider when trying to decide what motor to use for that, and things to keep in mind. So we'll start with Level 1. So we'll toss it over to you, Gary.
Well, you have a choice, generally speaking, of 29 and 38 millimeter motors. A lot of people I'm seeing like to build their first rocket with a 38 millimeter motor mount, because that way they can fly Level 2 in the same rocket, or they seem, with an adapter, they have a bigger variety of motors they can use. We're seeing a trend in people certifying with single use lately, last year or so, and that's great. If you're, again, like with my certification, I'm trying to keep it simple and straightforward, and not break any records or create any headlines either way. But I would recommend the same thing with any kind of certification. Don't go with a super high thrust motor, unless your rocket is fairly heavy. Try to keep the velocity down and the reliability up. So, if you're going a couple of motors that are the H100, I think the H219 DMS motors are great certification motors. I would stay away from the real high thrust ones unless you're super confident of your build. As far as level 2 goes, once you get to Level 2, you're kind of stuck with high thrust, right? You're you're not really stuck, but you're
stuck.
Yeah. Don't stick it.
Yeah, there you go.
You are you're going to be dealing with higher thrust motors simply because you got more impulse. So your rocket is going to have to be well built. So again, if you're going to have one rocket doing your Level 1, Level 2, it's going to have to be built strong enough for your Level 2 motor. And if you do that, then your choice for Level 1 motor is more open, right? You could probably go with some of the higher thrust ones, H283 or whatever, if you're doing that. By the time you get to Level 2, you might want to think about doing a reload, because that's ultimately a lot of people are going to be using those, no matter what brand it is, in their everyday flying or every launch flying. So, but a single use is a good choice for Level 1. Did you want me to talk beyond Level 2? Or
yeah, I was going to. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to second that that trend of going with a 38 millimeter motor mount for a Level 1. When I did my Level 1 and then built my rockets for that, which are just going to be coming up in 10 years next year on the oldest one, I kind of decided to go the route of 29 millimeter. And about 5 years later, even though I'm still Level 1, I kind of look at that and go, I really should have gone 38, because I kind of came in with the kind of the blinders where I looked at the the minimum I need to get into Level 1, and so I picked 29 millimeter. I can do that. But now that I've been looking at that for a while, like as Gary says, there's a whole world of motor propellants at 38 that you can use that I could have been using that could provide for some really interesting thrust characteristics for my rockets. And so basically I'm saying, listen to Gary. Don't do what I did and pigeonhole yourself in the 29 millimeter world.
Yeah, it makes the process a little easier.
Yeah, it does. And when you get into the Level 2, there's like, I went through the process pretty quickly to go through the levels, but in retrospect, I fly more Level 2s than anything right now, because Level 3s are awesome, they're great, but they cost a little bit of money, right? But
Yeah.
There is the level 2 has an amazing range of motors that are available. You got your DMS, you got your loads. I mean, Aerotech has a ton of propellants and thrust curves, and there's so much in the level 2. I think it seems to me that that's the one that has the most options, out of all the classes, if you want to call it that. I'm still exploring the L class, which I think is probably that thrust impulse of L is not used very much, but I really think it deserves like a lot more than, to see more L flies than I actually have in the past. I've seen more Ls lately. The L1000, it's a class. That's just the classic go-to single-use L motor. And it's not a crazy L. It's a good L. It's a good solid motor. It's awesome to see. Well, they're out there, But
crazy L. Yeah.
But I like crazy Ls too, but for when I'm doing stuff with my high school team, I usually like to stick to the single-use motors just because it's easier for them. But when I do my own stuff, and they love to see the L1000. That's like their favorite motor to watch fly. So, and there's so many different impulses, like different motor choices in that class that I think the L has been kind of like not given enough love, but hopefully we'll see more of those coming out or more on the flight line.
Yeah. The L level 2 has a tremendous range. When you think about it, you going all the way from a J270 through this new L 1940 we talked about.
Right.
And
it's a huge array in between. It's amazing.
It is. So another thing I'd recommend on level 2 is, seriously consider doing electronic deployment on your level 2. It's not necessary, but it sets you up for for an easier path to level 3. And
great stepping stone for sure.
Yeah, I used the Pratt Hobbies RC ejection system on my level 2.
Nice.
That was at
cool.
That is cool.
Orangeburg, South Carolina. But yeah, it worked pretty well. But anyway, any kind of electronics, it gives you a good practice for the next, for subsequent flights and for potentially level 3.
As you go into that, what about motor selections when you do decide to take that step to level 3? You have less options, but you have a lot more to look at, right?
Well, you've got. I would say one of the most popular motors for level 3 is the M1297. Okay, that's the 4-grain White Lightning load. Not a lot of people certify on the low thrust motors.
That's interesting.
And I don't think a lot of people certify in M650s or M685s or that kind of thing. But a lot of M1297s, some M1315s. Again, you get to the M class, you're going to be putting your rocket through a lot of stress no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so, why do you think that is? That there's the lack of use of the lower thrust ones.
Could be the rocket weight. To fly that M motor, the rocket has to be pretty light. A lot of people build fiberglass rockets; they're heavy. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, but when I made the choice of the SBR fusion type rocket, that's a cardboard tube rocket, so it's fairly light. I think it's only about 10 pounds without the motor.
Exactly.
So that just lends itself right to that M650. Nice lightweight. So yeah, if you've got a heavy rocket, M1297 or one of those similar motors is going to be a good choice.
And I think that if you're going to level 3, I overbuilt. I'll be honest. I built the heck out of that rocket because I wanted it to survive. So yeah, it came in heavy, but I needed to use an M4500 in mine, which was a great flight. Love that motor.
Yeah, that's a great motor. That must have been a heavy rocket.
It's about 50 pounds.
Okay.
And it did. It took it up around 6,000 feet. So it was a beautiful day. It's just a sweet motor. But that's much more of a fast burn, kick in the pants kind of motor. So
second and a half burn.
That's what I like. Yeah, 1.5 seconds roughly, and 1,000 pounds off the rail of thrust. Boom. That
is
awesome.
Totally a G motor for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I do I love that Super Thunder propellant. I really do. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So had a lot of requests for that. We're working on I think is it a 1-grain? Yeah, that's another thing we're working on is a 1-grain 75 millimeter Super Thunder load. So that's somebody suggested that on the Rocketry forum. Hopefully the next week or 2 or 3 we'll actually have fired one.
Oh, that means I'm going to have to get another casing now. Great. It's all good.
Yeah, we've got to give
Twist
that
his
casing
arm.
some love.
That M1297 is a great motor. I flew one at LDRS. I actually flew it on the last day, and I believe that was Sunday. And it was in a 4-inch Mach 1 Alien Interceptor. It got 12,000 feet out of that booger, so I was pretty proud of it. So it's a great motor. The plume of smoke from that thing just amazes me. I really like the White Lightning, guys.
Oh yeah, me too.
Jim and I have talked about that. Yeah,
I love White Lightning.
CG. Wow, just that.
And the super Wet Lightning is pretty cool too. You know, the stuff that goes in the F-67. That's love that propellant too.
Yeah, that's also in that L1296 or L1256. I can't remember the exact designation of it. It's the other 3-grain 75 that we've made for that college application that wasn't quite up to snuff on the average thrust. But yeah, that's super white.
Yeah,
awesome
cool stuff.
Oh, I love it. And thanks for all your work, guys. I mean, you know, Aerotech is always kind of the go-to for me. That's Tim Van Milligan's fault over at Apogee because they're like, well, here, take a look at this one. You know, H73J was the very first motor that I flew for high power, and I was kind of stuck on those. So I don't know, flown probably about 13 of those already. So
that's great.
I like Aerotech stuff, guys. It's good. It's fun.
Thanks.
Me too.
I'll pass on your comments.
Cool.
So, any other things you wish to share on level 3 motor considerations, Gary?
Again, just try to reduce the risk because a level 3 is expensive, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, not just the motor, but the kit, the electronics, all that stuff. You're probably dealing with well over $1,000, depending on where you get your stuff.
Yeah.
And you want it to work. Why have to repeat it?
Right.
Again, there's a lot of considerations on a level 3 that aren't a problem with level 1. My philosophy on that also, if you're going to talk about Hamster Dance and stuff like that, that comes into play there too.
So another thing I wanted to bring up here is say, okay, you've got your propellants and you're all set for a year or whatever, flying rockets and all that. So one of the things I wanted to bring up as a discussion point here is the proper care of your propellants that you buy and proper storage and you hear a lot of things from fellow Rocketeers about how to store your motors or what not to do, and this is and you kind of wonder, okay, how much of this is just rumors that's kind of built up over anecdotal evidence or whatever. So I figured, who's the better to go to than Gary to kind of dispel some common rumors but we can start off with some best practices as far as storing your propellant, and we'll go from there.
Store your motors in a dry place and sealed up. It doesn't hurt if you want to put them in a box with a desiccant bag or something in there, keep the moisture out. Propellants like White Lightning, Red Line, and Mojave Green are more sensitive to moisture than, let's say, Propellant X, Blue Thunder, Super Thunder. Those aren't nearly as sensitive. So, keep it dry. That's the main thing. Don't let them get too hot. Cold doesn't really hurt them, but hot, you're going to potentially have some accelerated aging issues. Although I've never identified a motor that failed due to what I would determine was accelerated aging. But the rubber that's in the propellant is a synthetic rubber, and it is affected by heat and by oxygen, and the bonds, the double bonds in there can break. You can end up getting a harder propellant over time. But again, just keep them sealed up and at a reasonable temperature and keep the moisture out. You're better off in that way.
And if there's times when you get you keep it stored before you build the motor, so you've got your reload in a bag, and it might have been in storage, and you take care of the desiccant and it's sealed up. And sometimes there's that little white spots on it, like oxidation, it looks like. Would you recommend just kind of scuffing it up a little bit with sandpaper? Because that's what I heard from an old rocket guy, and I've done it on a couple of occasions, and it seems to help. Like, I think I saw some on a Mojave Green load that it was just these little white dots, and it looked like, somebody said, well, it looks like mold. No, it's not mold, it's oxidation. But is it okay just to take a little emery board over that part of it, of the load of the grain?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt at all. Yeah, if you want to remove that, and especially in the area where the igniter is going to be, to help it ignite easier. But it's a reaction product of a couple of the propellant chemicals when they get exposed to moisture is what it is. Because it won't happen if it's stored in a totally dry environment.
Yeah. And I heard that, and I wasn't sure if it was true. I've done it once, because I was like, well, and it was exactly that. It was at the grain where the igniter was going to go right into the top of it, and it worked.
So, if you happen to have some grains in storage, and maybe they were in a less than ideal, and maybe took on a little bit of moisture, what should a person do with that?
Well, sometimes the grains will swell so that you can no longer put the motor together. You can use an X-Acto knife and slice off the swelled part. That's about as much as I would recommend. I don't recommend people, start putting them on the lathe, or we can't really go there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, level 2 people could if they're research people, but if the ends are swelled out, you can cut it off with an X-Acto knife. That's pretty bad, though.
Yeah.
That would be like,
yeah, I would say
you opened them up and then left them exposed in Georgia weather or something. So,
yeah.
It might even be worse than that.
What about peeling the paper liner a little bit? If it did swell up a little bit and it's having a problem going into the liner, is it okay to peel that?
You can always do that. Yeah, you can always take that outer glassine layer or the single white layer off, and then they should fit fine. I've never seen it where you had to peel more than that off.
Right. No, I've not. Yeah, I was just curious about that too.
Yeah, the problem with paper and things like cardboard is they absorb moisture at different rates and in different places. So humid environments are going to cause the paper to swell a little bit, and dry in a dry environment.
You had mentioned just a second ago about Hamster Dance. So, winner of the Hamster Dance last time. Tell us about that competition that happened in 2021, where it was at, and what we're going to do this next year, if you don't mind talking about that.
No, not a problem. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, I bet.
I like the contest. It's fun for me. I mean, I never was a big contest person when I was, before Tripoli and in the NAR and so on, but this is more of a technology contest, and, you have to,
I can see that.
You have to bring a lot of different disciplines together to make it work. But yeah, it was 2021 was at Black Rock again. It was on, I think they postponed it to Saturday, which was during balls out there.
Right.
And we had to do that because the waiver prior to Saturday was only, I think, to 7,000 feet. So all the rockets were mostly planned to go above that altitude. But there ended up being, I don't know, there were maybe 17 people registered and about 10 showed up. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, we ended up, taking group pictures, and at the end, they, instead of, they were going to just award everything, away from the crowd, but they ended up making it a, kind of a public thing, and awarding the prizes and so on. And I was not planning. I didn't think I was going to win this time. I'd won the previous 3 contests, but this time, Ken Finwall and Gary Dickinson had built rockets that I thought could outperform mine. So I was going to be happy with second or third or whatever. I mean, I enjoy promoting this contest because I like to see the technology development and, people getting pushed in different areas that they maybe haven't been pushed in before, and getting interested in areas that I like to work in, motor development and so on. And
what did they do with their project that impressed you?
Well, Ken's had the highest performance potential. He had developed a really long end burner, and Ken had done like hundreds, maybe even 1,000 simulations of different motor types and different diameters. He actually optimized the diameter of the rocket. So it was, I don't know if it was like 45, 46 millimeters, something like that. I can't remember the exact diameter, but he came up with the ideal L over D, because you're limited to a 5-pound weight, right? So, you can't go 75 millimeter. That's too big and fat. You go 29. I did that for a couple of years, but when they changed the rules so that it was, there was no more altitude ceiling, that was going to be really difficult to compete with a 29 millimeter rocket. So I went to a 38 millimeter because I kind of go with what I have handy to work with. And he went with this monster end burner. It was like double my impulse. It was 14, 15, 1600 Newton seconds. I don't know what it was. 20, I think it was I don't know how many seconds. It's 25, 30 second burn. And his simulated to like 45,000 feet altitude. So I thought, I'm toast, right? I'm not going to beat this. I was predicting 20,000 and change. So I thought, okay, well, if I make second place, I'll be happy with that. And then Gary's, he had a similar long motor. It was a boost sustain motor. I think it was a core burner and a moon burner together. And it was looked pretty serious to me. Again, similar length. If you go to the Hamster Dance flyers page on Facebook, you see us all holding our rockets. Yeah. And those guys are on my right, so they're holding theirs. And so I mean, but like I've said, you show up at the contest and you get a good flight and you get it recovered, you've got a 50% chance of getting at least second place. It's crazy like that. There's so many people
involved.
It is, but and you think it's simple, but it's like a carnival event where it's easy to shoot the dot or throw the thing into the cup or whatever, but it's not. It's everything's got to go right. So I mean, you've got in a lot of years you've got people K2ing motors. You've got lawn darts. People don't get their rockets back. All that stuff happens. So in this case, Ken's rocket, he flew it a little too late, and the wind had come up, and his rocket had a margin of stability of 4, so super stable, but very very susceptible to the wind, right? So it literally pitched over and flew 5 miles downrange, and they never saw it again.
Oh, dude!
So nobody knows how high it went, or he never got it back. And then Gary's rocket ended up, with no deployment or something. I don't know if it stripped or it just didn't deploy at all. It ended up completely burying itself in the lake. And then we had a couple other people had shreds or motor flew through the rocket. Paul Traynor had a successful flight. Chris Pearson had a successful flight. I can't remember who else did. There might have been 1 or 2 others. But Paul came in second place, I think, with around 7,000 and change. And Chris was similar. But
Gary, there might be some. I was going to say there's some people that might not know exactly what the rules for Hamster Dance are. Would you mind? It's after you finish going and kind of explaining the rules a little bit.
Okay, well I can do that right now.
Okay.
It's the thing was started by Tom Blazanin and Deb Collins and Dave. Dave Rose. And it was actually, if you read the original Tripoli reports, the Gerlach, Tripoli Gerlach News, it was almost the foundation of the formation of Tripoli Gerlach, that they were going to have this fun launch, and this was one of the things they were going to do. So they started that 11 years ago, and the original rules were 5-pound maximum liftoff weight,
too cool,
no metal parts, single use motors, no staging, no clusters, no darts, right? So very simple sounding, but it turns out that hardly anybody has made single-use motors at that time. So it was a big challenge because you had to use, paper, phenolic, fiberglass, I don't know if you could use, I guess you could use carbon fiber. And, no metal, no other metal parts, no reloadables, just single use. And then for a while there, it was, you had to fly, there was a 15,000 foot ceiling. So people were starting to push that at the end. And then this year they eliminated the ceiling. So it's just, that changed it a lot. I mean, it made a big difference in the type of rocket you might want to fly. So it's just like, all out. I mean, if you do some theoretical simulations on different rockets with different, impulses that are within those limits, you come up with a rocket that can exceed 70,000 feet. So there's a long way to go with this contest.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm not kidding. So those are the rules. I can't think of any others. You have to make the motor yourself. You can't buy the motor.
Right.
All right. You have to put it together yourself. And that's important too. So, it's funny because there have been some people go there for the competition. Other people have flown fun rockets, just weird looking rockets.
Okay.
And so anything goes. You don't have to fly for the highest altitude. There's actually several different awards that are given for best looking rocket, lightest rocket, heaviest rocket, that kind of thing. And I want to correct something that was in the Tripoli report, is that they said that I ceded my first place to Paul Traynor, and I didn't really do that. I ceded the prizes. I said I'm not gonna win any of the prizes. All right.
Got it.
RCS provided a bunch of the prizes, so I just said,
right.
Yeah.
If I won, then the prizes go to the next to level, to 2, 3, and 4, basically. That's what
makes
happened.
sense.
So Paul got all the first place prizes.
Oh, okay.
Paul Traynor, yeah. So it's a fun contest. I had some motor designs in the works as of last year, and I fired one late in the year, and I'm probably going to go with that. It's going to be a 54 millimeter motor end burner for this year's contest for me. And again, I'm not going to, kind of like my normal philosophy, I'm not going to really try to stretch it. I'm not going to optimize the diameter of the motor or try to squeeze every last bit out of it. I want something that'll work and be reliable. And it'll be an incremental improvement over this last year's performance. So I did 22,280 feet, I think, with the J33 that I flew. So this one it'll be over that, but not tremendously over that, if it works.
Steady and incremental improvements can definitely help.
Right. Well, and I know Ken is already doing testing, and if you read that Tripoli or Hamster Dance Facebook page, you'll see Paul Traynor's already designing and firing motors, and I think that's all cool.
I did catch that.
A couple other people, Bryce Chains, I think he's looking to get into it, and that's cool. He's an engineer at Raytheon.
Nice.
So let me talk about Bryce for a second here. Since you brought that up, Gary. So Bryce actually took over some of the Gates Brothers rocketry rockets. And CG and Jim, I think actually you guys would really enjoy talking to Bryce one of these days, because he was a fan of, Eric and his brother for the longest time. And he wound up inheriting or buying the trailer. And he's been flying the Gates Brothers rockets at LDRS, Gary. I don't know if you got to see that. They flew that big Porthos rockets. And wow, I got to tell you, that was a great show. And it was on Aerotech motors. So, it was kudos to you guys for making such dang good stuff. Because you put that beast in the air. Yeah, it was really cool.
He flew the Sumo too.
Yeah, so the Sumo one, CG, is the one I told you about, where that had the 2 12-pound bowling balls as the nose weight.
Oh, okay.
But the way they were secured was so legit, guys. I mean, Bryce, we'll put you onto the show at some point, because I think people will want to know how you kind of worked with, Eric and his brother, and, the Gates Brothers rocketry. And, you weren't kind of a fanboy that just kind of took it over. And it's really cool. So thanks for mentioning, Bryce, Gary. That's nice. I appreciate it. Gary, I have a couple other questions, actually. So you mentioned RCS. So I think there's a lot of listeners that don't understand, like, basically the umbrella of Aerotech, RCS, and even Quest. Can you tell me about the whole platform and division that you basically run for Aerotech and everything? Can you talk about all those?
Yeah, well, RCS was a little spin-off. I started in 1995 before, the fire and all that happened in Las Vegas.
So, understood. Okay,
and,
so that was...
Yeah,
that's been around a while. Okay.
Yeah, it's been around a while, and we started just selling paper tubes and nozzles and some things for what we saw. There was a growing research / experimental motor market, and then after the accident and the restructuring of the company, I turned RCS into a corporation, and RCS then acquired the assets of the former Aerotech Inc. and Industrial Solid Propulsion Inc.
Makes sense.
So those corporate entities ceased to exist, and we just took Aerotech and ISP and turned them into basically divisions or brand names.
Got it.
So the legal entity of the company is RCS Rocket Motor Components. And for people who ask, they always ask, what is RCS? It stood for, it stood for Rosenfield Consulting Services, because when I first started it, we were actually consulting for people and companies on rocket and rocket propellant topics and contracts. So, but when I formed the corporation, I think it was in 2004, I went up to Salt Lake to file the incorporation papers. It was originally just going to be RCS, RCS Incorporated, but it turned out there was another RCS already incorporated, and I couldn't use that name. So I just, on the fly, added, Rocket Motor Components to that. So that's where it all came from. And so now it's, cool. When you do business with us, you're doing business with RCS, but, we have the Aerotech brand, we've got the Quest brand, and we have the ISP or Industrial Solid Propulsion brand or division.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense now, because I get asked all the time, it's like, why does my box say RCS? Because sometimes when you order a motor, you get all these grains and you get this bag with all the O-rings and, the nozzles and stuff in them. Like, it's like, oh, it says RCS on the side. What does that mean? Where did this come from? Is that just some grocery store or something like that? It's like, that makes a lot of sense now. Because when you think RCS, the first thing you think of is that R stands for rocketry. But that makes so much more sense. So thanks for clearing that up. I've always been kind of curious myself. So thank you.
I will add something about RCS is that we've seen, we've been adding things to the RCS store over the years. Just a lot of them are customer requests. They say, can you put up a Mojave green grain or this nozzle or that piece, something. Mm-hmm. And we just keep adding like that. And I mean, we just recently added a big part of the Altus Metrum line for avionics, and that's been going really well. We really like their stuff. I like stuff that I use. I use the Altus Metrum telemetrum in my Hamster Dance rocket, and it's also in my level 3. So I'm real impressed with that product. So we sell them, and we expanded the line to include antennas and mounts and other stuff. Anything you need to work with the system. The RCS store, obviously caters to research and schools, government, and corporate sales, and that's been the fastest growing part of our business right now. Now, it's not a lot of our, it's not even 10% of our business, but it's the fastest growing segment. So,
makes a lot of sense.
Thank you to all our research and corporate customers.
That's great. That's a good solid chunk for business. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to take another quick break here, our last one in the show. We're going to come back with Gary Rosenfield of Aerotech, and we've got a couple of cool questions to go. And so we'll be right back after this. North Coast Rocketry, established in 1984, is the company that practically invented the class of rockets known today as mid-power. North Coast Rocketry takes advantage of over 30 years of high-power experience by a world-class rocketeer. North Coast Rocketry features a wide range of unique kits to expand your personal high-power rocket fleet. When you see an NCR rocket fly, you will encounter an absolute treat of sight, sound, and performance. Once you own and fly a North Coast Rocketry kit, your rocketry hobby will never be the same, and neither will your rocket fleet. In addition to great kits, North Coast Rocketry also stocks lots of must-have items and accessories for every Rocketeer's workshop. Go to northcoastrocketry.com today to find out more about these kits and other great products. northcoastrocketry.com. Advanced rockets that are easy to build, fun to fly, and look great on display. It's time for Serious Rocketry. Serious Rocketry since 1998, providing the Rocketeer with great kits, motors, supplies, and more. They have lots of products in their ever-growing web store with fast shipping, wide selection, and courteous service. You can also check out the amazing and popular Serious Rocketry kits that harken back to the days of fun-to-build detailed kits that are more than just 3 fins and a nose cone. And Jesse, you've been looking around. What did you find?
Hey, CG. So I really like taking a look at the Serious Rocketry website. And I always kind of let Jeem take a look at this, but I decided I wanted to look today. And I found something that I've been looking for a while, and I wanted to tell everybody about it. For my Secret Santa that I got here around the holidays, I actually got 2 different rocket kits from, actually 3, but I want to talk about 2 of them. And they have them here on Serious Rocketry, so let me kick off with this one. The first one I want to talk about is the Quest Mean Green, which is one of their advanced rocketry kits from, Quest Aerospace. This particular rocket is just right around 2 feet tall, 24 inches. It's got a 24 millimeter motor mount. This is good to fly on anything from D's all the way up to your F composites, and just blast that thing high if you want to. The really cool thing about these rockets is that they're not just a common type of Estes kit. This is a good type of entryway to get into mid-power kits. And right now, Serious Rocketry has this particular Quest Mean Green on sale for $31.49. That's a tremendous price. One of the other rockets that I got that I want to talk about really quick too is the Quest Advanced Rocketry Quad Runner. And the Quad Runner happens to be a 4x18 millimeter cluster. And I have seen these kits before, and now I finally have it in my hands. And I just want to tell everybody about it because right now, Serious Rocketry has that particular kit on sale right now for $44.99. That's a tremendous price and probably one of the lowest that I've seen. So if you're interested in getting something that's just a little bit outside of the Estes type realm with low power kits and you want to kind of go into like mid-power rocketry, pick up one of these Quest Advanced Rocketry kits. They're big, they're awesome looking, and man, there's just so many different things you can do with these. So yeah, check out Serious Rocketry.
All right. And Serious Rocketry's website features real-time stock tracking, which lets you order with confidence from their online store, no having to call or write to see if something is really in stock. When you're ready to fly, Serious Rocketry has motors and hardware in stock from Estes through Aerotech High Power, as well as popular electronics from Jolly Logic and more. Be sure to ask them about their club specials while you're at it, and you can visit their websites today at siriusrocketry.biz and .com. Serious Rocketry, for the serious Rocketeer.
Hey, all you rocket geeks out there. Do you like doing in-flight videos of your flights? And do you ever use those keychain cams and unfortunately sometimes only get videos of your thumb? Hey, this is Gene from The Rocketry Show, and that used to happen to me. I used to use those old keychain cams only to get nothing very good quality. But I found a solution to that, and it's Insane Rockets. It's an app that's available on the Google Play Store for Nexus 5X and higher. Now get this, it does 4K video. But not only that, it'll upload it automatically to the cloud and provide you real-time telemetry while tracking your rocket through Google Earth. It is amazing. Available on the Google Play Store, Insane Rockets app. It's crazy. No, wait. It's insane.
Welcome back to The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. CG, Jeem, and Jesse, we're all here with Gary Rosenfield of Aerotech, having a great conversation as always. So thanks for coming on with us, Gary. And so, Jeem, you had something you wanted to bring up here with Gary?
Yeah, there's, in all things, every once in a while, there's something that happens, and whether it is some kind of problem that occurs. But there's been a little bit of talk about it. The O motor that was RMA'd recently, and some issues that were faced. Could you talk a little bit about that, Gary?
Yeah, no problem. We had the motor certified and was used in a number of high-profile launches, including a U.S. Army group, and Princeton University flew a bunch of them. And, we had no problem until we had a flight by Buddy Michelson, and I helped him assemble the motor. And he had a burn through at the nozzle end about 1 second into the flight. And of course, the rocket didn't go as high as it was supposed to go, but it actually didn't do a whole lot of damage to the rocket. But and there have been one or two other failures that I've become aware of. So it was very alarming to us. We ended up, halting all sales of that motor until we could figure out what was going on. In the meantime, we have submitted a reloadable version of that motor to TMT, and that should be tested. I'm anticipating this month. They have it. They just need to test it. We've tested one. It worked perfectly.
Nice.
Our best guess is that there could be something wrong with the fiberglass casing and the way that it works with the liner. And we were having a similar problem with some of the 54 millimeter DMS, like the L1000, when we were using a thinner case with a separate phenolic liner. And when we switched over to that thicker fiberglass with kind of machined in the ends where the nozzle and bulkhead went, no problem since then. So I'm hoping that we see a similar result with the RMS version. We've also sourced a single really thick fiberglass case, just like a 98 millimeter analog of that 54 millimeter original L1000. So we're going to be we're going to try that out because I know there's a market for both types. Okay. And some people want to fly single use. So we're gonna try to get that thing back on the market as soon as possible. There's really nothing fundamentally wrong with the motor design. It's a great design in my opinion.
Good. Yeah.
Super high performance, and the ones that have been flown. I think the Army flew theirs with the CTI upper stage to 250,000 feet or something crazy. It landed 75 miles downrange.
Wow.
Just really crazy stuff.
75 miles?
Yeah. That's what I read. So,
I'm glad about that because I want one.
Okay.
Yeah, we all want one. CG wants one.
We want to help you. That motor, besides the Q-Jets, that motor has taken us longer to develop than any other Aerotech motor, just to try to get it right. And, we do the best we can. And then if there's some kind of anomaly with one of the materials we use in it that's out of our control, then, we have to try something else that increases the safety margin, right? So that hopefully will allow for the anomalies and the variabilities that are in the material. So that's where we are. We're hoping to have something to announce possibly as early as NARCon, but certainly hopefully by February with regard to the RMS version. So
that's not too far away.
Right. No. And if anybody that has one that we've asked to hold off flying it, we will, we'll make you whole. We'll either set you up to fly it on a reloadable or with a new single-use casing. We'll figure it out. There's not that many out there right now that have been flown. So
that's fantastic.
We're gonna try to make it right.
Thanks, guys. That's awesome.
Perfect.
Hey,
that's where we are.
Another quick question. That reloadable casing, is that the one that you guys had displayed at the RCS tent, at the Aerotech tent at NSL?
I believe it is.
Did you guys have a...
Yeah, we showed that at LDRS, I think, as well.
That thing was massive, guys. It was awesome. I think I have a photo of it somewhere. I'll give it to the show notes, CG. So.
Okay.
Too cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you for answering that and being straight with, because things happen, and as long as it's safe and it's going to be back on the market, that's all people really want to know is the people that want them will get them, and that's cool.
Yes.
And with a motor that big, it's just hard to get a statistically significant number of firings in. And
Oh, yeah, right. I can
until you
imagine.
start seeing field firings, and even then, I mean, you're not seeing a tremendous number. You're not seeing like hundreds. You're seeing
Right.
dozens, or at the best, dozens, really. So it's when a problem crops up, we actually have seen failures that were clearly due to a user error. All right, so we didn't really
Right.
count those as that didn't set off any alarm bells. But I think when I helped Buddy put his together, I remember coming back and telling Carl, because Carl did a lot of the production engineering on that, and I said, Carl, I put this together according to the instructions. It's not an assembly error. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start the R&D. Go.
Yeah.
Start the And
Right.
Carl's got a picture up above his desk. It shows that that picture, that meme of the little girl looking at the camera with the house fire in the background.
Mhm.
They put all kinds of
Right.
they put all
I
kinds
call her
of
the Slayer girl.
yeah, stuff like that. Well, it says worked fine in dev. Now it's manufacturing's problem. See, so
Oh
yeah,
man,
that's Carl's.
that's funny.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
is harsh.
Oh man. So now
Awesome.
we're going to pivot to something fun here real quick. And that is something I saw on your Facebook page, which I thought was really cool. And that you've been bringing out slowly a lot of old Super 8 films of, some rocket things that were going on from days gone by. And it looks really fascinating. So tell us about how that came about and what you're hoping to share pretty soon with folks.
Well, I had these Super 8 movies for decades, going back to the 70s, early 70s. And quite a while ago, I had them transferred to digital tape. And then I took the digital tapes and put them on a hard drive. But over the years, and I never really had the gumption or motivation to get them put into any other format. And over the years, I've lost the cable, and I don't even know which particular hard drive they're on at the point. And I've been looking around for it.
Yeah.
So I still had the tapes, and my son was over here, and he was talking about transferring some videos. I said, "Hey, why don't you bring these tapes over to that place and have them digitize it?" So he said, "Yeah, no problem." So at New Year's, because we give gifts to each other at New Year's. So my gift was a thumb drive with all the movies transferred from the tapes to a thumb drive digitally. And I said, "Great! Now I have no excuse." So I opened up my iMovie and started, dumping it in there. And I mean, one tape has got probably 10 or 15 clips that I'm going to have to edit out, right? And so that's what I started doing.
Sure.
Was I took
Nice.
I took tape number 1 and I took the first 3 or 4 clips out of there and I posted them. So I'm not going to really do any editing. I'm just going to cut the events out with all the film splices and everything, and just say, okay, well, this is a Lucerne launch, or this is a I don't think I have any BlackRock stuff, but maybe I do. Yeah, there's some Smoke Creek stuff up there from the 70s. So yeah,
Wow.
One topic or one venue will be one clip, on YouTube. So yeah, that's where that's coming from. Some of those go back to the early 70s. So you're going to see in video
the
form,
beginnings.
you'll see the beginnings. Yep.
Nice.
That's so cool.
Looking forward to that.
Some I wanted to do for a long time, but it's a big project. So
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, that's going through all that stuff. It's just the mechanics of getting it all together. Ugh.
yeah.
But once it's done, though, I think there's probably some important historical stuff in there. There's got to be,
Well, it should be up there forever. So
Mm-hmm.
so people can look and laugh at us 100 years from now. Like, look at those crazy guys.
Yeah.
You know what? It's every generation
Right.
does it, though. This is like the Hot Nozzle Society is coming in now, and they're doing the same things that you guys did. So it's kind of like watching this whole circle keep going
Yeah.
around. I love it.
Well, thanks a lot, Gary, for hanging out with us here on the Rocketry Show and catching us up to date on what you're up to at Aerotech and RCS and all the fun talk in between. So we're looking forward to seeing how things play out over the year, and we'll have you back again. Our annual visit with Gary Rosenfield and Aerotech.
It's always great talking to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you at a launch in person.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If I can get my butt out there, I will.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see you a couple of times this year, Gary. Again.
All right. You guys coming to LDRS at all?
I most likely will go, yes. And then if you go to Airfest this year, I might see you there as well. I'm not sure. I was supposed to go up to Canada during that time, but some other situations have come up. So I might have to take an opportunity and not go to Canada this year, but we'll figure it out. So I might see you at Airfest too. And then CG and Jim are going to go to Airfest also, right? CG and Jim.
I'm hoping I'll be able to pull off going to one of the LDRSs out there, because I've never been to any of the things out that far. So,
yeah, this one should be great. The Lucerne Group puts on a great event.
That's what I've heard. I'm excited.
And we're supposed to hopefully be staying up at Big Bear Lake, so that makes it even more enjoyable. Get you out of the heat, because it gets hot down there in June.
Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine.
Indeed.
Well, that was a fun interview there with Gary Rosenfield of Aerotech. A lot of fun talking to him. I always like when he's on, we get to fill in all kinds of stuff with him. And
Gary's just, I like talking to Gary just even at launches. Like he'll just, if he's available, he'll stand there and talk to you and, talk about anything rocket related. He absolutely loves the hobby too. And you can tell like just the way he was delivering everything, it's good stuff. And his old videos are awesome. Have you watched those?
I haven't had a chance to yet. It's been a busy week for me leading up to this fight, for both me editing the interview you just heard and just work-wise, it's just been crazy. I saw that he's got a few things up there, and I can't wait to check it out and look at the historic videos. So anxiously, waiting for my moment to
So the
put
fact
YouTube
that he even
on the
had
big
cameras
TV and
rolling back then is such a huge deal for me. Like, we talked to Joe Hill a while back. He used to say that he used to like watching some of the old rocket videos, right? That he used to go home from school and pop those in his VCR and watch those. And it's kind of cool to see that Gary actually is running a camera and recording some of this old footage, and he's able to put that out and edit it. And I can't wait to see what he's got. He said he's got a couple of years worth of stuff, so that's awesome. So I'm excited for that.
Yes, me too. Don't forget, you've got the Narcon coming up, which is all virtual right now. So if you've forgotten about it and you haven't signed into that yet, please do so. And hang out there. Jesse and I are going to try to work it out so that we'll be hanging out amongst you as well online.
Yeah, so I think that starts on Friday the 28th, and then it starts at noon on the 28th on Friday, I believe, Central Time, and then all day on Saturday. And then on Saturday, there's kind of like the after party, which is what you and I did last year. Remember, CG? We stayed on with everybody chatting for at least 2 or 3 hours. It was great. So yeah, if you even if you're Tripoli, guys, join the Narcon convention online. It's great. We had a lot of fun, and we were able to talk to a lot of people. And then we actually got to put faces with names that we hadn't talked to before. And it even goes into Sunday a little bit, and there's some activities that you can do after the fact. I like to kind of consider the stuff they do on Sunday afternoon kind of like the little barbecue. One of the things that I'm really, really excited for, just to mention for Narcon, is that you have the Hot Nozzle Society is going to do a formal introduction for themselves on Friday night. So please tune in to listen to Andrew and Jenna Kay talk about, what the deal is. So any of you who are wondering what Hot Nozzle Society is about from the whole Hot Nozzle Summer thing, you're going to find out. And I think a lot of you are going to kind of like the premise of what we're trying to do. So awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For
So
sure.
Narcon, lots of fun happening on that event. Indeed. Let's see here. What else is happening here with things? I had something in my head, and I should have gotten my pen out and marked it up, and I don't remember. No, it wasn't you. There was going to do Narcon and something else, and we had so much fun talking about it that the something else disappeared out of my head. Go figure.
we got so much stuff going on.
Yeah, so much.
I'm excited for this episode because I get to hear something on the plane because I'm going to go to Hawaii after this.
So, and the other thing, this is not what I had in mind, but something in there, heads up on. So, folks, don't forget, the Model Rocket Show is back. We're, had to rejigger things a little bit, and we talk about that on the first episode of the Model Rocket Show. Well, not really the first one, but the first one of 2022 and the first one after a long hiatus. So check that out at themodelrocketshow.com or check your feeds on your podcaster if you're podcast feeds if you're subscribed to it, and you'll find that there's another episode on there. It's a deep dive on the safety code. So it's a nice refresher, and Jeem and Jesse did nice examples and things to kind of refresh your memory on that and to bring another perspective to it all. And it's a great thing to have if somebody is interested in the hobby, or you think they would be interested in the hobby. Definitely point them to that episode. It makes a great primer on the safety aspect of hobby rocketry before jumping into it all, and lots of practical examples and stories and things to keep in mind in that regard. So,
and give us some feedback on that too. I like to say this when I went and, kind of shared it around on some of the groups and stuff. It was 2 level 3 guys taking it back. And Jimmy and I had a lot of fun discussing that because it was a lot of stuff that we had remembered and learned. And then there was some stuff that's not in the safety code that we kind of shared with everybody. So if anybody has feedback for that, please let us know, because we really want to know, what we can talk about off topic too, when it comes to that kind of stuff. It was fun, but thanks a lot for, Noob, for allowing us to, get on there and share that stuff. It was fun.
The Noob is still, you'll find out what's going on. Noob is still involved, so you're keeping him involved as much as we can, and he talks about what that's all about. So check it out on the episode of themodelrocketshow.com, the latest one. So now we've come to that part of the show here where we do our patron thank yous here at the Rocketry Show. So we'll get that started right now. And the Rocketry Show would like to thank these listeners for their personal support of the podcast. And once again, the support of listeners like you and this list of folks helps to, pay all the crazy bills that pile up when you do podcasting. You can do podcasting free, but then nobody really hears you because you kind of disappear off into someone's back channel on the server where they're trying to figure out how to, make money off of you by playing commercials all over the free podcasts. So we've gone to the route to be open and accessible to everyone, which is not cheap. And, the cost of hosting and all the servers and things like that. So while we have sponsors on there, and the sponsors help pay for things, and usually the sponsor support helps us to maintain our technical infrastructure, the studios and things like that, getting, better quality sound, from all of us to you. And no doubt you've probably heard the evolution of, Jeem, Jesse, and the Noob's audio quality. And that's all thanks to, the sponsors for helping us out for the most part. And also there's some things we do are able to sneak through out of the patron support side of things too, whenever we have a month where the server bills and all that aren't too crazy. So with that in mind, we're going to thank the following patrons for their support. And we start with Todd West, also Jonah Cheney, who's an annual supporter of the show. Matt Tudor, thank you very much, all of you. Joseph Petro, thank you as well. As Les Rayburn, who's a longtime supporter of the program, as well as Stephen Spencer and Bill Cook. And Greg Ziegler and Gary Rosenfield, of course, who was on the show with us, all supporters of the show. Thank you. Toby Vanderbeek, also Ken Blade, Eric Hamilton, John Beans, thanks for your support, all of you, and Scott Holla as well. Guy Wadsworth, hey, how you doing, Guy? And thanks for your support, as well as Phil P. and Tom Rum.
Hey, Phil.
Steve, hey, Stephen Ray, hey, Stephen, how you doing? And same to Amanda Ho, how are you doing? Also, thanks to Steve Sainer for your support, Mark, and the railbuttons.com, folks. I can talk.
Randy and team, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And we've got some new ones here. Philip Kelly, thank you for joining the patrons of the podcast and supporting us. and EvertonRocketry.com, which are Canadians, I guess, right? Supporting it.
Yep, that's Mr. Don Cheney. Thank you, Don, and your team for joining. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. Also, another new Stacy Worley, an annual supporter. Thanks for supporting the show, and thanks for joining in on the patron list, Stacy.
Hey, thanks, Stacy. Hey, just so you guys know, Stacy helped me in Argonia with my SWR-004 rocket launch. So I got some stuff coming about that. So thank you, Stacy, for your help.
Brett Nowacki as well, another new supporter of the show. Welcome to the list here, to the gang. Also, Timothy Mock, who's been supporting us for a while. Thank you so much. Jeff Curtis and Phil Bridges, both have been on here for a while. Thank you, and hello to you two. Roy Tyson, Norman Perkle, thank you very much.
Norman.
Rob Hoagie, who's been around forever as well. Thank you so much. R. Smith and Gary Dow and Jack
Gary.
Coleman. All three of them have been longtime supporters. So thank you so much. And hello to you. So our patron list continues. Jesse?
Hey, let me continue this. So Don Johnson, not 80s Miami Don Johnson, but Rocketeer John Johnson, thank you so much for your help. Pierre Marlou, thank you so much. Heard your name for quite some time. Jeff Curtis, Philip Calvin, Jay Bryan, Casey Anderson. We've been reading your names off this list for quite some time and really want to make sure that you understand that we thank you so much. Mark Essenwine.
Hey, Casey.
Hey, Casey. And then, Jimmy Burgess from Paradise Rocketry. I met Jimmy finally from at Airfest. It was nice to, have a drink with the guy and sit there and watch him do his level 2. It was a great flight, by the way. Scott Masters, Jason O'Scally, and George Raycord Jr. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
Charlie Harnett, still talk to Charlie every day. Thanks a lot, man. Give us some more questions. We like listening to your feedback on SpeakPipe. So thank you so much, Charlie. And then JohnRocket.com, when another business supports us, we really appreciate that because that it means that you're helping us, help the community. So thank you so much, JohnRocket.com. Jason Rodney, thank you so much. And then of course, my buddy Conway. Thank you, Conway. We can't wait to have you on here again. Kyle Lemke, hey, annual supporter, Kyle. Thank you so much for doing that. We really do appreciate the continued support. Paul Olivieri. It's easy to remember how to say Paul's name because it's kind of like my last name. So, Paul, thank you for being a supporter. Sam Feinberg. We talked. We have had your name on the list forever too, man. It's great. Our buddy John Sicker. That's one of these days we've got to wrap with that guy, right, CG?
Yeah, we're getting closer. He's actually going to be doing some stuff with me. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with patrons as soon as he's got a moment. He's in the process of retiring, but the job is still the more he tries to get out of the job, the more it pulls him back in.
Right.
So
I know exactly what that's like. But
so he's
we're
anxiously
excited.
awaiting a moment to get on there.
And we're excited to hear him. So Sean Falkingham, also an annual supporter. Thank you so much for doing that. And I really appreciate that. Our buddy Brian Schenkenberger, thank you so much for your support, Brian. I really appreciate your continued support.
Thank you so much.
We've had your name on this list for quite some time. Our buddy John Thompson, who we had last season, maybe we can pull him in and chat with him some more. He had a lot of insight when it comes to NAR stuff. Mark McBride, Doug Wade, C. McCulley, Carl Hunting, all these names been on here forever. Thank you so much for your continued support. We really do appreciate it. The Piedmont Student Launch Team, you guys have been on here forever. Thank you so much. Chris Irving, thank you so much for joining us on our last season as well. And thank you for being a continued supporter. David Simmons, we really love listening to your feedback coming in on the mailbag. So thank you for doing that. And please continue. It's very helpful to us. And we really appreciate that. Scott Binder with SBR Rocketry at fusionrocket.biz. Scott pretty much helps everybody out in the Pacific Northwest with his clubs, with the stuff he sells, customers throughout the States. Thank you, Scott, for your contributions to Rocketry and for helping us out here too. John Kusher. Yeah, John Kusher, Kelsey Black, Brian Reneker, all you guys, just thank you so much for everything. I mean, we can't, I don't know how else to say thank you, just except saying thank you so much. Jerry Krause and Justin O'Neill, all you guys rock, appreciate everything. Yes. And I think we might have forgot somebody, right? Jason Cook, thank you so much for your continued support as well. So,
all right. Yes, thank you. So, and if you wish to join this fine list of folks who are supporting the program, just go to support@TheRocketryShow.com and you find out all kinds of information right there as to how to be a patron of The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. Once again, thank you so much, team. It means a lot that to have this many folks supporting the show and putting their support behind it all. So feels great.
Hey, actually, let me talk about something when it comes to filling out your stuff for Patreon. For new subscribers, if you're interested in doing that, you have different tiers that you can join. With all the different tiers that we have 2 available right now. One's for $12 a month. After you do that for 3 months, you get a sticker from Patreon. And then if you do one for $25 a month, that's the level 1 launch package. That one, if you do for $25 a month for 3 months, you get a really cool TheRocketryShow.com mug. So for any of you older supporters, you can actually go into Patreon and you can edit your subscription so that you can, pass on 3 months. And that's what I did. And that's how I got my swag. And I still am a supporter of the Rocketry Show too, because I like listening to the episodes when they come out before anyone else. So as soon as that thing hits, I know that I can listen to it on Patreon. And even if it's at 11 o'clock at night, I'll listen to it because I don't get to hear the show until CG edits everything and we get it all produced and everything. And then I get to hear it with you guys. So that's really fun for me. So that's another reason to be on Patreon. I can't talk more about it. It's good stuff. So
yeah, and right now, just so you know, now how much time you get to hear the show before it posts in the public kind of varies. Depends on how quickly things are. It depends on when we record it and what we've got in the queue. And then how much time it takes to edit. Sometimes the shows are up for several days before they drop publicly. But sometimes it's like, it's within a few hours. And I try and I don't really make a big deal about it because it's so, all over the place. But there's always a possibility that you'll get to hear it before it drops everywhere else. And we are starting to produce more programs that are just hanging around on Patreon. So we did a whole thing with Conway Stevens. And I think we may end up just dropping that as an episode because it seems like from that side of the pond,
a lot of information.
Yeah, all the questions were answered in that. So that's going to end up being in the main feed here in a little bit. But patrons have had access to that for a couple months now.
Yeah,
that's just kind of been hanging around out there. So there's some things going on. We're starting to do a few more things in Patreon, just as extra thank yous as we are able to do those kinds of shows. And Jesse's got some stuff he's been working on as well.
Yeah, it's a good outlet to get all the extra work that we did that's kind of lingering in the background that we couldn't put on the main show. It's a good way for you to see some behind the scenes stuff that we've been doing. So we really enjoy it. It's all about time.
Indeed. Yes.
But thank you guys.
So anyhow, speaking of time, that time has come where it's time for us to roll on out the door. No pun intended.
All right, fine.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see you next time here.
Good episode.
It was a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll have more for you. Well, we definitely do have nice ones on the way. Great topics. And hopefully they'll end up being just as fun as Gary's episode was on this one. So we'll all find out together, won't we?
Indeed. Yeah, for sure.
So now you need a tagline, Jesse, because now you're it.
I do, right? Yeah, because I don't want to use James' tagline, but
All right, that's your tagline for this episode. I need a tagline. We'll see you the next time. Keep it safe, and as Scott Manley would say, fly safe. And we'll see you later on Rocketry Show.
Have a comment? We'd love to hear it. Send them to mailbag@TheRocketryShow.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, don't forget to check out our sister show, TheModelRocketShow.com. The Model Rocket Show is hosted by the Rocket Noob and is all about low to mid-power rocketry. TheModelRocketShow.com with Daniel, the Rocket Noob. Check it out today. The views and opinions expressed on these programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Little Beth Entertainment or its sponsors.